Martina Olbertova. I guess most of you have heard of her recently, because I wanted to take this opportunity to thank her for putting semiotics at the most visible place now in the ESOMAR publications, in collaboration with the magazine of ESOMAR called Research World. So just a few words about this, and Martina can add anything if she wants now or later, but I think we will be, now semiotics will be having a very good platform to be visible in the research world. And that's also, later on this afternoon, we will discuss about how to sell semiotics, but now with this series of articles of 30 semioticians in over 15 countries, over 12 months in ESOMAR publication, we will have much more chances to emerge. So I think we need to applaud Martina. So please. A few words about Martina, founder and chief meaning officer. I see you choose very accurately the titles at Brand Curator, a strategic insight consultancy specialized in resuscitating meaning of brands. So you hold a PhD degree, a Doctor of Philosophy in Media and Communication Studies from Charles University in Prague, Czech Republic, and you will be talking today about the application of brand curation methodology. I'll leave you the stage.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here. First time at Semiofest, first time in Asia. I just have to make a quick reminder. I only slept 2 hours last night, so please bear with me. Right, so Brand Curator introducing semiotics as a tool for sustainable brand direction. That might sound a bit too exotic for some, but basically my take on semiotics is more on the application front. I studied semiotics at the university, but because my background is more in strategy, also research, but more like strategic insight, and lately also brand consulting. So I will be talking about application of semiotics for brands, and a sort of a method that I developed. It's not like anything. It's not like a rocket science or anything. It's just a tool basically that I developed that helps me in work with brands. And it's called brand curation. Brand curation, as I call it, is a systematic process of shaping brands and their meaning on a symbolic level. Again, maybe too much theoretical, but we will get to what it actually means in the application phase. What's the need for it? What's the need for basically curating brands on a symbolic level? I believe it comes directly from the need in a market right now, which is the marketing clutter. We can see it everywhere. There's a big homogenization of messaging, basically to the point that you almost cannot tell major differences in between positionings of many key players in the same category, and realize what makes them different. So another thing is that brands, from my perspective, are managed in a way that it's not fitting the current situation, being the clutter in the marketplace, basically because brand management focuses on two main things. It focuses on the channels, being various media outlets, being the social media, being ATL, which is television advertising, being the print, being PR and other various channels of communication, and the other part being the execution, which is the creative form of the message. But if the brand lacks the long-term vision, is often what results in the clutter. They, instead of going back to the original meaning and thinking whether the messages are intact with their values, they tend to sort of churn out more and more messages in more and more various channels, because they're realizing that the consumers are slowly, or actually more rapidly, becoming almost immune to them. And in my belief, this is not the way out of it. This is sort of the way to create even more clutter in the marketplace. That's why I propose this method, basically focused on a strategic way to create the inner meaning in a brand that can lead to basically decrease the brand fragmentation and also the image inconsistency that is often the situation where the brand comes to someone like me. They basically exhausted all the other options. The research is not getting the data that they need in regards to moving forward, and the traditional research doesn't quite work for them. What I would like to sort of propose now is a metaphor that I've created concerning the brand direction and the process that the brand are directed. What we can see in the traditional brand management, as I've said, that is focused on the channels and the execution, we can almost resemble it to something like a supermarket. You have different agencies that you choose from. You have different selection of services that you choose from. All these services are ready to choose from, are already available, and you only choose agencies that are going to deliver it to you, the services that they're offering. Another way to look at the brand direction is as a sort of a gallery, which basically creates the meaning in a way that it's more enjoyable and most logical and most consistent of an experience that it creates all together. Because what you can easily end up with if you direct your brand as a supermarket, sort of the metaphor, is the full shopping basket of, I have the print ad, check. I have the television campaign, check. I have the research data, check. I have everything that I need, and in the end, when I've exhausted all the options, I realize that I have no meaning. Because what happens with the agencies is that every single agency can have a completely different take on your brand, and you end up with having multiple different brands in multiple different channels, with nothing staying sort of in a core, holding the brand consistency. Or if you look at it from the other point of view, you can look at it sort of as a chef, that you only shop for what you already know that you need, because you have your goal in mind, you know where you're going, you have the vision. And if you want, for instance, to cook a spaghetti, you know you need, spaghetti, meatballs, and you need a wine, and that's all that you need. You don't need, 100 different options of services from multiple different agencies specializing in all kinds of, content marketing, social media, print, online, whatever have you. And what you end up with is a consistent brand experience for the consumer. This is just another example of what it actually looks like if you try to direct the brand as a sort of one of the pack, which also unfortunately happens many times. It's sort of locked in between, online social media, POS materials, advertising, having a sort of a clueless position, being in all the inner clutter. Whereas if you put the brand where it belongs, right, in the center of all your communication, then all the different channels and all the different messages sort of draw the meaning from it, and you end up with one compact sort of stream of information that is much more, not only much more readable for the end consumer, but also meaningful in a way that the consumer can identify what you're saying. So the idea really behind all this was to create a method which would work directly with the brand, meaning, and allow brands to communicate meaningfully, relevantly and consistently throughout various media outlets. And this would significantly decrease the brand fragmentation, which is a really big concern for many brands, especially as they're switching different agencies and every creative director has a complete different vision, or they're switching the brand managers and every single brand manager has a complete different vision, and what you end up with is, a fragmented brand in very sort of short period of time. Ensure the image consistency and brand recall, and ease the brand management also for the clients and the agencies. So the brand curation process, it has 4 basic steps. As I think Vladimir was mentioning, how do you sell semiotics? Just see that there's no point number 1 what semiotics is. I do not necessarily explain my clients what semiotics is because I believe they're not really interested what semiotics is. They're only interested in, do they actually get a better insight? Do they actually get something that is of an added value to what they're already using? So I'm not aiming to sort of educate my clients theoretical wise. I just of course, they need to know that the method has sort of a relevance and it's a legitimate tool to use. But once I sort of guide them through the initial, diagnosis of the state of their brand that allows them an insight that traditional research doesn't, they're more inclined to work with the method they're not even familiarized with. Sorry. So the first step would be for me simply to offer an outsider's point of view that would sort of uproot their way of thinking, reframe the old traditional frame that they're using that is not efficient and effective for them in order to move forward, and allow the outsider's point of view on their brand that can actually move sort of the ice. Break the ice. The second step would be the semiotic overview of either their brand context, the category context, or even in a broad term, the cultural context of their brand. To see some sort of guidance or cues that would help to reframe the problem. Because many times it happens that they come with a brief almost, they come with a problem, and once we apply the initial diagnosis, we realize that the problem is completed somewhere else, but we wouldn't be able to find out without semiotics. The third one would be once we get through the initial analysis and the overview, the third one would be the semiotic conceptualization, creating the concept, basically to ideate a new positioning for the brand. We already know what sort of positionings the other players in their category have. We sort of know the patterns or the concepts that they're playing. We can differentiate in between whether or not we want to tap into that, or is it something that we don't want to associate ourselves with because our values or positioning is somewhere else. And the fourth one is something that I think might actually come very handy for brands, and it's the semiotic guidelines or the sort of semiotic manual that I've created, and I will get to it at the very end, that can ease the brand strategy implementation. Right, that's a very similar image. I will probably get through this. So what I would do at the very beginning is to not look at the brand, as many agencies that come to the clients do. They say, you know, your problem with the brand is this, and you need to do, I don't know, you need to reposition, or you need a different packaging, or you need to redesign, which is a very, what's the word? It just happens very often that brands redesign, instead of focusing on the meaning. And what I like to do is to tell the clients, well, I will not really find out all that much about your brand if I look directly at the brand. I need to look at the context of your brand to know sort of this semiospace where your brand is existing in the marketplace, and that will get us answers that you weren't probably able to get before. This is just a slide sort of touching the point that I made on the redesign. It happens very often that brands redesign because they don't know how to focus on their inner meaning. But the thing is, if you only focus on the aesthetics, which is how we derive meaning from communication anyway, we look first at the aesthetics, and from the aesthetics we derive the meaning in the second place. But if you only focus on the aesthetics, doing just a nicer version of your design with no sort of inner meaning tackling, then it's not going to be all that effective for the brand in the long term. And this is the slide that I like showing my clients, because it's all very abstract and they don't know how we sort of where we get the data from, very simply. So I would just show them that basically the brand is not an island. It lives in a context, but it's also more of an iceberg almost, because what you see is only the tip of the iceberg, and that's the communication that we would focus on and to derive meaning from. But the 9/10 is the invisible, and that's the culture. So the communication essentially helps us to break down and go down and see the cultural codes. So this is the case study that I wanted to present. Sorry, I just need to drink. So ERA is a new Czech bank. It's actually not so new. It started 4 years ago. And it's representing this sort of new banking style and new era. That's why it's called ERA. New era of banking. And the situation on the market in the Czech Republic currently is that there was a big boom in the banking category 4 years ago. It might be similar to many other countries. All these new banks with online banks or allowing the basic banking concept just flooded the market all at once. And there were like 5 or 6 different banks have started like in only 1 or 2 year period. So another classical example of how not to do it. And since then, the new online banking have been sort of redesigning the traditional banking paradigm, introducing some new concepts that they sort of wanted to oppose to the traditional banks. But the need for the new banks to sort of position themselves even more clearly is that not only there's an oversaturation of banks in the Czech Republic, but there's also not enough new clients. Because the market is saturated, almost every adult has at least one banking account, and there's nowhere to sort of tap into. So they have to start really, really early with the youngsters all the way starting like 13 years old, 15 years old, to sort of get them used to their services, to basically retain the clients after they're 18 years old. So there was a need for ERA to build a clear and meaningful image in the banking category. What we did, I proposed that we do the overview first. So we looked at 8 brands in total, 8 banking brands. We studied 48 different communications, all being TV advertisements, because they basically showed the positioning in a much more clear way that if we were looking at the print or online banners or what have you. In the last 5 years, to see where sort of the brand ERA lost the momentum in the market and where all the other brands jumped in. So for this study, we looked at the 2 of these contexts. We looked mainly at the brand and we looked at the category. And what we explored, we definitely needed to know what ERA was doing right and wrong in terms of embodying its own brand personality and strengthening the identity through the TV advertisement. We definitely needed to know if the tonality and the brand feel was fitting, and if it was consistent. We needed to know if the messages that it was communicating were clear enough for the consumers to understand, but also to sort of reflect the brand DNA and the values. We also, and this came very, very useful actually, especially for this brand, we needed to know if the codes that they were using in the messaging were actually reflecting the brand values. And they weren't in many ways. So that's why the consistency came in. And the last thing, when we were looking at the overview of the category, we needed to know the dominant or the heavily played concepts in the category to sort of position ourselves against two. So what we found out, in the category, they were 3 biggest concepts that were sort of defining the banking paradigm. There was the old versus new. The old were traditional banking versus the new banking. There was the notion of creating an ideal world, an ideal bank. And third, there was the sort of trying to bridge the banking world with the world of the real people and reflect basically their world using their values that were actually reinforcing the values of the brand. So the first concept, this is just a visual from one of the banks. It's called ERA Bank, and it might not be very clear, but this gentleman on the left is the traditional banker. He has the traditional, the heavy blue suit and has this sleazy haircut and is a little bit chubby. And he has all these restrictions, on the window, and it says traditional bank. And you cannot go there with a stroller, and you cannot go in a bank with ice cream, and you cannot go there with a dog. And if you have a granny, rather don't go there either. And all these different sort of ways how traditional banking was being portrayed. And then you have this on the right, you have this young guy, almost a hipster, who creates like a natural opposition to the old banking world. So this is what ERA Bank did about 3 or 4 years ago. The problem with trying to sort of create the natural opposition of the new and the old world is that the positioning like this will exhaust itself very early on. So it's great for the initial stage when the brand is entering the market, but it's almost suicidal if you want to play that in 3 or 4 years, because naturally you will run out of things to say, which this brand, for instance, is experiencing right now, and they have a really, really hard time sort of trying to make a leap out of that positioning somewhere else, because people are only remembering them as creating the opposition, and they're sort of already pissed off because as untrustworthy this gentleman is not actually much more credible, because the artificially made notion of a really cool banker that is friendly is not very realistic either. So the second one is the idea of creating an ideal world. And again, it's very nice to look at, especially as someone like mBank. mBank is actually a Polish brand, but it's very strong in the Czech market. So they try to visualize the ideal banking world of online banking, using all these different things in the interior that you can have, and they're sorting them down by the color, which creates like a visual metaphor to how easy it is to sort of sort out your online banking, to create your own sort of space online. Again, if banks are sort of betting on making it more enjoyable for the clients and creating an ideal world that they will be delighted to join, it's sort of a false impression, because for what actually came out of some researches that I actually did a couple years ago, but the data from this one doesn't change quite that much over the years, is that clients are actually not interested in banks at all, and even less they're interested in joining their ideal world. What they're interested in is for banks to create some sort of relevant values that they can identify with in their own life, and not make the effort to sort of transition to the world that they created for them. It's not relevant. The third one, and this is sort of bordering on the emotional exploitation a little bit, is the move, which is basically almost oppositional from the ideal world, that goes closer to you, but it goes almost too close. It doesn't only portray your life and your values in a sort of natural habitat, but it goes right in your apartment and in your kid's bedroom, and it looks at your kids from very, very up close. And this is the biggest Czech bank, which had a little bit of a problem lately because it's biggest, right? So obviously it has the largest brand awareness in the market, but how do you transition from that if you want to position the brand in a way that's sort of differentiating yourself, and but you only remembered by being the biggest? So they wanted to transition to positioning of a modern family and reinforce the values of a family through narrating stories of their kids. But as I've said, it's almost going too close, and rather than reinforcing the values of the people, it reinforces the family cliches, which is something that people just a little bit want to stay distant from because it's maybe a little too close. So these are the three biggest concepts, sort of creating the natural feel of the category. This is the context that we were sort of trying to occupy, or rather, position ourselves against to, because neither of these was sort of fitting in the identity that we wanted to build for the brand. And this is the context of the brand. And basically the three biggest challenges that we wouldn't be able to tell otherwise if we were not to use semiotics, by the way, is the unclear brand positioning, unclear brand territory, which is especially important if you want to sort of plant the consumer occasions, when to use the brand, where can I meet the brand. It's very important for the consumer driver, for the motivation to actually either feel an identification or actually a driver to consume, or to in this case to transfer the bank for a different brand. and very changing tonality throughout different campaigns over the 5 years, which is that's pretty severe. Changing tonality. Brand feel should directly reflect the brand values, but if the feel is changing, then the brand values are sort of fluid as well. The first one, the unclear brand positioning. What we did was essentially to look at all advertising of ERA in the last 5 years. And what we saw was unbelievably shifting positioning of all the different campaigns that they've had in the last 5 years. They started down here in the image. Basically the brand personified common sense, down to earth, only what you want, sort of like a pure logical voice. We will not bullshit you with anything that you don't want. Only say, I want a basic account, and you only get a basic account. We will not call you, we will not harass you, we will not do anything that you don't want. We're not just the salespeople. If you want a basic account, that's fine. If you want a savings account without basic account, that's fine. It's your account. So we offer you only what you need with no extras. Well, that was 2010. From there, the brand sort of a little bit lost the rational span and went to sort of the people-friendly zone, the folksy image. And from some reason, I don't know why, but it started reinforcing this almost like creature, stereotypical ways of what an ordinary folks look like. So it started portraying, I mean, this on the left in the middle, there's this guy in a bus, and he has this weird squared shirt on, and all the setting looks very sort of, not very aspirational, sort of like very, almost working class. We don't have working class in Czech Republic, but you could say like working class image. And they over the summer, because the mood had to be lighter for the summer campaigns, so they started playing with the humor. But again, it was the humor, like a popular kind of humor with no sort of, link to the brand, reinforcing the values. It was like sort of like pandering to the masses almost. And somewhere there, the brand sort of lost the continuum and started going way aspirational and way back to fun and humor. And last year, and it created this, ideal abstract space of vision. Again, it doesn't absolutely have anything in common with the starting point when the brand started in 2010. And last year, finally, it ended up in the world of aspiration. It started using this. They had a TV campaign using reflections, which only in itself, reflection is sort of like very aspirational way of portraying an image. It had this, shallow light and sort of like dreamy feel to it, and the setting was very aspirational. There was a family with the perfect kids, and the wife, just making the breakfast in the morning in this huge kitchen, and they had this beautiful garden in the back and everything that normal Czech people just don't have. And it ended there. And at that point, they knew they had to do something with the brand. So they tried to look at the data. They tried to look at, what was coming out of the trackings and what the people were saying. And they were saying, oh, this is nice. I kind of like it, but isn't that all that different to whatever else you were telling me in the past? And I'm quite confused. So they knew that traditional research wouldn't sort of help, and through sort of series of coincidences, I published the semiotic guide presentation last year, and I sent it directly to the general manager of the brand, saying, I think this could help because your image is very fragmented, and if you do not, try this, I don't think that very many other things can help you. And actually, the general manager of the banking brand is semiotician. I mean, who would have thought that? He's a mathematician, but from some reason he actually wanted to sort of expand his theoretical background, and because he's a true study type, he went to study religion, and then as a minor at religion, he had a semiotics, and then he also started drama for some reason. So he has this very sort of, like a strong persona, and a big interest in semiotics. And he said, "Okay, Martina, you have a go. Just show me what you can do." So this is the one thing, the fragmented image and the unclear positioning. That was very useful for us in the further brand planning. The second thing was that the brand occupied 4 territories at the same time, which is again unheard of. They had the real life and the everyday situations, which the average consumer can very easily identify with because these are situations from their life. But they also had the made-up ideal world of a brand, trying to sort of attract people to this ideal world of banking. Come here, this is better than every other banking brand. We have this, dreamy space of big vision, and this is why it's better. But the thing is, it's too abstract for anybody to sort of grasp. Why is it better? What is the vision? And what are you actually delivering better in my account than any other bank? It doesn't sort of transform. The big vision hasn't started transforming in the ready-to-deliver services for the consumers. So this definitely wouldn't be a reason for them to switch. The third one, the world of dreams and the aspiration, completely opposite to the real life and the everyday situations. And the fourth one, which I personally just really dislike the most, is almost a caricature on the real life. It's a seemingly real life, but with unreal looking people in it. And the people are, saying the lines that normal people just wouldn't say, and they're using slang from some reason because the brand maybe thought it was cool. And it's all, too much unreal. Like for instance, this kid. I couldn't understand this kid. You see the mother down there playing with the iPhone. They introduced some smart banking application, and the kid who would a normal Czech kid doesn't wear a hat and Harry Potter glasses. So this is not somebody you would see in your normal life. The third thing is that
Martina,
yes,
5 minutes.
I'm actually 3 is fine. Okay, good. Yeah. The last thing, and that's a really, again, really big, how to say it correctly, screw up maybe. It's a really big problem for the brand if it cannot retain a consistent brand feel. So it started. The tonality started basically started at the everyday. It went all down to folksiness through aspiration to the big vision, and it was sort of oscillating in between all of these steps at the same time. So again, if I'm a consumer, I don't know how the brand is supposed to make me feel. I don't know where I belong. I don't know where the brand belongs in my life, first of all. So the immediate brand needs. This is not the whole scope of the analysis. This is just 3 primary sort of messages that we get from it. The rest is unfortunately confidential. I cannot show publicly. But the immediate brand needs, first, conserve the brand DNA. Second, ensure a consistent image of the brand in all brand execution, across all the communication channels, in all the messages that it's doing, whether it's direct mails, whether it's advertising, whether it's letters to the clients about state of their account. It must retain the same feel of the brand, the same consistent image. and retain clearly differentiating positioning while staying relevant to the banking category and the consumer. And to the banking category is especially important because, for instance, even if you wanted to have a really fun and relaxed image, the banking category itself has its own values. It has the security as a value, it has it must be trustworthy, so people shouldn't joke because it's people's money that were hard to earn. So if you want to position yourself as a joker almost, you cannot do it in a banking category. You cannot do it if you're Fanta, but you cannot do it in a banking category. So that's 3 immediate jobs to be done for the brand. And what's that? And to ensure the second point, I introduced to the client something that I call the semiotic manual, because I realized that I can brief them on how to retain the consistent image. But they are not the ones who are going to work with the brand. The agencies who are going to execute the messages for the brand are those who are going to work with the brand. So that's why I created the manual, to sort of conserve the brand DNA, to tell the unified story of what the brand is about to all these different agencies that they would be working with, to specify what brand codes, and this is really important, to use in the message execution, especially in ATL, especially in the television advertising or print advertising, to ensure the consistency of the image. So I would, for instance, specify the tonality that the brand can use so it conserves the image consistently. The color schemes, it shouldn't be too dark, because if you have a brand that's core value is vibrancy, you cannot do it through codes that are bordering on darkness, because it doesn't make any sense to the brand. So the light usage, this color scheme, the brand feel, the brand territory, where the brand lives, is especially important for people to be able to identify with the brand. What kind of people, how the people should look, how the people should talk. And the third point, it eases the communication and the briefing process, because if everybody is sort of aware of what the brand is and how it should look like, the easier it is to get the results right and accurate. So what semiotics has helped us to do? First, accurately diagnose the immediate brand needs and point our focus in the right direction in strategic planning. So it wasn't any, we tried this and it doesn't work, and we've wasted 3 months realizing that this doesn't work, so we try something else, and we waste another 6 months because we realized that this doesn't work either. The semiotics would actually point our focus in the right direction, and it would save time and money as well. Second, recognize nature of the banking category to sort of secure that we know what our context is. And also what sort of concepts to avoid in further brand strategy planning. Third, which is something really important as well in terms of brand context, map out the play field, the sort of the limits. If other banks are here playing with the concept of fun and humor, and somebody is really traditional here, and somebody is really has modern family values, all the space in between might essentially be blank for us to fill in with new content to sort of redefine the feel of the category. And 4, specify the brand guidelines, as I've said, the semiotic manual, to ease the brand strategy implementation. Thank you.
Thank you.